Humility is strength under control. Insecurity is weakness in control. There is a thin line between humility and insecurity. Insecurity is when you know your weakness and it prevents you from moving forward. You know what you can't do and why, and that stops you from making progress in life. While humility is when you recognize your strength, but you still keep it under control. You don't look down on people. You know you can do it. You don't brag about it. God has equipped us with some strength, all of us. But why do most of us struggle with insecurity? Why? We struggle with insecurity because of our deficit mentality. A deficit mentality is a mindset that focuses on the problem rather than the potential. It focuses on limitations rather than the opportunities. Moses struggled with a deficit mindset. When God called him, Moses did not say, "Oh, voila, I've been waiting for this opportunity my whole life. You saved me from the water as a child. You made Pharaoh raise me in the palace. Oh God, I know you are the one who protected me in the desert for 40 years to prepare me for this occasion. I'm ready. Here I am, God, send me." No. His mind jumped to his limitations. Hear what he said to God. Exodus chapter 3 verse 11. But Moses asked God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the Israelites out of Egypt? Who am I? Who am I?" He said in Exodus chapter 4 verse 10, but Moses replied to the Lord, "Please, Lord, I've never been eloquent, either in the past or recently, or since you have been speaking to your servant, because my mouth and my tongue are sluggish." Wait a moment. He did not just tell God that he's not eloquent. He emphasized to explain to God how his problem affects him. Look at this. He was very eloquent explaining his ineloquency. I don't know if that word exists. Listen to this. Either in the past, okay? That means 1 year and beyond, I have never been eloquent. Then he did not stop there. He said, "Oh, recently." That means from yesterday to 12 months ago, I've never been eloquent. He did not stop there to explain to God how he can speak. He said, "Since you have been speaking to your servant," that means since you started talking to me, God, I'm not eloquent. You can see that I'm struggling even to talk to you. Since we started this conversation, I'm struggling just to convince God not to send him. Why? He's looking at the problems, what he can't do, instead of looking at the opportunity. Despite the 8 years of training, Moses still struggled with insecurity. 8 years of training. Moses, if not all of us, struggle with insecurity in one area or another. We do. So how to deal with insecurity? How do we defeat the deficit mentality? How to defeat the deficit mentality? I would suggest 3 things. I would suggest 3 things to you how to defeat your deficit mentality. And the first one is acknowledgement. You need to recognize something. You need to acknowledge something in your life. The question is, what do you have? Not what you don't have. What do you have is the place to start. God has given you whatever you need to fulfill your purpose on earth. You have it. He plans to use what you have already. Who you are and what you have is enough for God. Moses thought he was not worthy to be used by God. That's what came to his mind at first. God was not looking for an eloquent person. Oh, before God came to him, he knew Moses was not eloquent. Let's assume Moses was right to claim that since long time ago, even recently, even since we started, I've never been eloquent. Let's assume that Moses was right. Didn't God know? When God came to call him, God knew. So if God calls you, he already knows you. He knows your limitations. Do you know why God calls us despite our limitations? So we don't brag. Moses thought God will only call the eloquent. Exodus chapter 4, 1-3. Moses answered, "What if they won't believe me and will not obey me, but say the Lord did not appear to you?" The Lord asked him, "What is that in your hand?" "A staff," he replied. "Throw it on the ground," he said. So Moses threw it on the ground. It became a snake, and he ran from it. Moses already had what he needed to deliver the Israelites from Pharaoh. He has given us all we need to succeed in what he's called us to do. One day, my wife and I were preparing to leave the house. We were preparing to go to a meeting. And generally, I put my keys at the same place every day. My wallet at the same place every day. My watch at the same place. My phone at the same place. Like I know where they are. So when I'm about to leave the house, I instinctively pick up my stuff. Please don't move my stuff. Please don't move my stuff. I always tell people, don't move them because I know where they are. When I leave the house, I know my phone is here, my wallet is here, my keys are here, and I go. And this day, we were about to leave, and I couldn't find my keys. Where are my keys? I asked everybody. And nobody knew where my keys were. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Checked under the seat and on my bag and everywhere, in every pocket there in the bag, everywhere. I got frustrated. Who moved my keys again in this house? We were about to be late. So I decided to make a call to the place we are going to explain that we will be late. While I was reaching my phone in the pocket, I touched my key. My keys were with me all the time. I was looking for them. You know, we go through life looking for things. You keep looking at things around you while God wants to use what is within you. You keep complaining about the things you don't have, and God is asking you, can you just trust me to use what you already have? I'm the one who gave it to you. I was looking for my keys around me while it was with me. That's a lesson I've learned in life. To stop looking at things around me and value the things within me. Are you looking for something you already have? Are you looking around you instead of looking within you? What talent do you have? What opportunities do you have? What gifts do you have? You know, you've been busy looking at other people's gifts to the point where you don't know anymore your gift. You have overlooked your talent that you are just, I wish I was like, I wish I had, to the point where you have forgotten even how you are wired, trying to be someone else. You forgotten. Because you are trying to find something around you instead of looking inside you. If God had thought you needed to be a bit taller, He could have done it. Oh, I'm telling you. If God thought you needed to come from a different parent, a different family, He could have done it. Oh, yeah. If God thought you needed to be from a different ethnicity, he could have done it. Instead of popping up from China, you'll pop up somewhere in Scandinavia. In Chile. We wouldn't even meet you. If God wanted you to be from a different race, he will do it. But he made you you. Because you are enough to him. Your skin color, your country of origin, your family, your height, and your eye color are enough. I don't need blue eyes. I'm okay like this. I'm not just okay, I'm proud of my eye colors. Can you see them? How beautiful they are. Ah, good. Oh, you want to see them well. Thank you. We stress about that. Oh, I wish I had blue. Oh, I had a brown. I wish I had red. Oh, okay. We'll give you red eyes. A deficit mentality focuses on what other people have. Quit looking at what you don't have and start valuing what you have. A deficit mentality makes you live with a sense of inadequacy. If you don't recognize that you are enough, you will always depend on others to validate you and make you feel good about yourself. What they say will matter so much to you. Unfortunately, people change. One moment they praise you, in a few moments they criticize you. One moment they shout, Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna. In the next moment they shout, crucify him. The same people, Hosanna, Hosanna. The same people kill him. We don't want him. Humans change. We feel inadequate because we want to be liked by people. We want to be like other people. It's time to start valuing what you have. Unfortunately in life, sometimes you may value what you have and you try the best you can and fail. So sometimes the problem is not just we don't value what we have, but because we are disappointed. So the second thing we want to talk about is disappointment. Exodus chapter 10 verse 14 to 12. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians coming after them. The Israelites were terrified and cried out to the Lord for help. They said to Moses, "Is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Isn't this what we told you in Egypt? Leave us alone so that we may serve the Egyptians. It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness." The Israelites were terrified, not only because the Egyptians were behind them, but also because they were disappointed. Let me take you there. They thought it was over. After observing the 10 plagues, they thought there is no way Pharaoh would come after us again. After the 10 plagues, they thought it was over. But they felt inadequate when they saw the Egyptians appearing again. They felt as if all their effort was futile. They were disappointed in Moses. They were disappointed in God. Because they knew after all that they've done, after putting their all into the process, they trusted Moses. They saw the plagues. They were fine. When they saw the Egyptians coming, they hated themselves. "Why did we even trust you?" they said. "Why did you bring us here to die?" They forgot all the signs, all the miracles, they forgot. Why? Disappointment. Disappointment can make you feel inadequate. As a parent, you may feel inadequate and not enough after investing everything in your child, but they end up making some stupid decisions. You feel inadequate because you tried your best. You gave it your all. And when you see them, you're like, God, is this me? What did I miss? Maybe you have invested everything in your marriage, but it's still not working. You are disappointed in yourself, in your spouse, and even in your God. Maybe you tried to start a business, investing time, resources, and energy in it, but it failed. Disappointment makes you feel inadequate, and it breeds a deficit mentality. You're not alone. A very famous man found himself in the same situation. And this is what he did to respond to disappointment. Or at least, this is what God told him to do to overcome disappointment. 2 Corinthians 12, 8-10. Concerning this, I pleaded with the Lord 3 times that it would leave me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in weakness. Therefore, I will most gladly boast all the more about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may reside in me. So I take pleasure in weaknesses, insult, hardship, persecutions, and in difficulties, for the sake of Christ. For when I'm weak, then I'm strong. Paul is the only person I've heard say he takes pleasure in weakness, insult, hardship, and other bad stuff. Do you want to know how he got there? Let me take you there. Paul learned to live with disappointment. He prayed. He prayed again. And he prayed again. And God did not answer. Instead of God giving him what he wanted, God taught him a lesson. Instead. No, God, I don't want that. I don't want you to teach me a lesson. I'm saying that in front of these people so they are my witnesses. I'm not asking God to teach me lessons. I want him to give me what I want. So that we are on the, we are clear about that. God taught him a lesson. He was busy doing what God called him to do. He was at the center of the will of God. He was doing everything right. Healing people, delivering people, preaching the gospel. And yet God said no. Disappointed. He was disappointed. It was a serious disappointment. Maybe that's where you are. Maybe you feel disappointed with God. You've tried it all. You fasted. You prayed. You tried to obey the word of God, but yet you are still waiting for God's promises over your life. Maybe that's where you are. Or maybe you have been trying and failing, but somehow you are just disappointed because you haven't seen the change you were praying for. Let me tell you what Paul discovered. He learned that God's grace was sufficient for him. He said, God's power is perfected in my weakness. What does that mean, Paul? Explain to me. When I'm weak, God's strength takes over. Paul was no longer trying to fight his limitations. He embraced them. He knew that whenever he faced limitation, Jesus took over. Oh. Whenever Paul acknowledged his limitations, he knew God will take it from there and do the rest. So it became a badge of honor for him. When he realizes, I can't do this anymore, he knows God is about to step in. We are frustrated because we want to do it all ourselves. Learn to trust God to take care of the rest. It became something to brag about. That's why he says, I take pleasure in weaknesses. They're like, Paul, what do you mean? Take pleasure in weaknesses. No, he knows what he's talking about. When he feels weak, he knows God is about to take over. He trusted God to take over. That is the lesson he learned. He embraced his limitations. You know what? The remedy to your deficit mentality is not to complain about your weakness, but to trust God's power, God's grace in your life. We should not ignore our limitations. I'm not saying that. But remember that God's power is perfected in our weaknesses. God's grace is enough for the real you, flaws and all. Let's say this together, please. God's grace is enough for the real me, flaws and all. Stop trying to fight your flaws. Embrace them. Stop trying to fight your limitations. Oh, I don't look like them. Oh, I don't speak like them. Oh, I don't smile like them. Oh, my nose is like this. Oh, my nose is like this. God wanted my nose to be this big so I can be as handsome as I am. Don't try to copy me. There's no surgery that can make you this handsome. No. It's just for me. Okay, let's come back here. God loves you just the way you are. And because of that, God's grace is enough for you just the way you are. We should stop proving to people that we matter by trying to hiding our flaws and weaknesses. The things that make us human affirm our worth more than anything else. You may not feel like being yourself is good enough. Maybe you try to prove to others that you are enough and that you matter. In fact, you've mattered all along. God made you enough. The world wants us to prove we are enough. But God has already made us to be enough exactly as we are. We are enough. It is through your limitations that God demonstrates his power. It's when you come to the end of yourself that you appreciate God's grace. When you reach that place when you say, God, I've tried everything. I can't do it on my own. Then God will show his power. It's when you can't do anything about the situation anymore when God steps in. That's what happened. When the Israelites thought they were about to be exterminated, God stepped in. When you feel inadequate, remember God's grace is enough for you. When you feel powerless, God's power is available to you. You know why God is not showing up in your life? You think you can handle it. That's why God is not showing up. You are too proud to receive God's help. You want to fix it all by yourself. And God says, when are you going to let me intervene? I will wait until you get to the end of yourself to show my power. Sometimes it's just good to just step back and watch God do stuff for your life. Just step back. Stop trying to fix your children. Oh, stop trying to fix your wife. Stop trying to fix your husband. Just step back and watch God do stuff. Trust him. Trust him. In the Israelite desperation, God decided to use what Moses already had, his stuff. It was there all along. God will use what you already have to solve your problem. If you let him, just relax and trust him. And the last thing I want to bring to your attention today is enablement. Enablement. After you've been disappointed, but you trust God, now let's see what God will do. Exodus 14:15-16, the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to break camp. As for you, lift up your staff, stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground." Moses' staff plus God's grace became one of the most lethal weapons known to humans. The boy with the 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish thought it was not enough. Yes, it was not enough to him and to the disciples. But when God's grace was added to it, it was enough to feed around 20,000 people. God's grace plus whatever you have is more than enough. 2 Kings 4:1-2. One of the wives of the sons of the prophets cried out to Elisha, "Your servant, my husband, has died. You know that your servant feared the Lord. Now the creditor is coming to take my 2 children as his slaves." Elisha asked her, "What can I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in the house?" She said, "Your servant has nothing in the house except a jar of oil." We undervalue what we have. That's why we add the word except before it. I have nothing except a diploma. I have nothing except I can just cook. I have nothing except. Why are you using the term except before it? Because you undervalue it. I have nothing except. If you think you are a deficit, you undersell yourself. If you think you have no value, you undersell yourself. You put yourself in relationships that don't honor you. Someone who doesn't respect you. Someone who doesn't respect your boundaries. You still put yourself in those relationships because you undervalue yourself already. You don't value what you have or who you are. When you think you are a deficit, you undervalue, you undersell yourself. 2 Kings 4:3-6. Then he said, "Go out and borrow empty containers from all your neighbors. Do not get just a few. Then go in and shut the door behind you and your sons, and pour oil into all these containers. Set the full ones to one side." So she left. After she had shut the door behind her and her sons, they kept bringing her containers, and she kept pouring. When they were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another container." But he replied, "There aren't any more." Then the oil stopped. Whenever God asks you, "What do you have?" He's about to multiply what's remaining. Whenever God asks you, "What do you have?" He's about to use it to do something big. What you have may not seem like enough, but when God's grace is applied to it, it becomes more than enough. Your life is not enough until you hand it over to Jesus. God will never ask you to use something that you don't have. If he asks you, then you have it, but you don't know it. Multiplication happens when you value your little, trust God with the gap, and let him take care of the rest. Value what you have. So what do you have is my question this morning. What do you have? God will use what you have while filling the gap for what you don't have. Paul said it. "I take pleasure in my weakness." You can say it today. You can start taking pleasure in your weakness. You can admit that you don't have it, and God will fill the gap. Do you value the little you have? What do you have? Are you saying, "I have no more strength"? Are you saying, "I have no more money"? Are you saying, "I have no more connections, no more friends"? Whatever you think you don't have, God's grace fills the gap. You don't need a lot of money to finish the project you started. You need God's favor. Ask me. My life is being favor after favor. I eat favor. I sleep on favor. I sleep under favor. I wake up on favor. I take it as my breakfast. I take it as lunch. I take it as my dinner. I married favor. I gave birth to favors. Favors make me. I don't deserve anything I have, except God's favor gave it to me. What is God asking you to do? And you keep giving him excuses. Oh God, I don't have this. I don't have this. I can't do that. You know me. I can't speak well. I can't do that. I'm not talented. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough that. God is asking you to use what you have. Start from there. He will multiply it. Start from there. What do you have? What are you using the word except before? I have no more friend except this one who is just this one, only this one. What are you using the word except with? Except. Except what? What don't you have except what? Give it to God. The lady did the same thing. Said, God, I have just this small, just oil, just small. And the prophet said, okay, give me your except. And I will show you God's power, God's grace. God is asking you, what do you undervalue in your life that God has given you? He can start from there. No, I can't serve at church. I can't do this. I'm not good enough like them. I'm not like, no, I can't do this. God, I can't do that. I can't start that. I'm not. Who told you are not? Remember, the young boy needed to give the fish and the bread to Jesus for the miracle to happen. The widow obeyed Elisha's instructions with the little she had. Obey God's instructions with the little you have. Gideon won the war with only 300 men. Instead of leaving him with 3,000, God left him with 300 only. If I was Gideon, I would tell God, take your people, I'm leaving. Go fight your battle with your 300. Me, Gideon, I'm not joining. God said 300. I will use 300. God is an expert with the little. When you give him your little, he knows how to use the little because he knows you are not going to take credit. God is an expert with the little. He knows how to use your little. Can you give him your little talent, your little time, your little money, your little knowledge, your little whatever you have to what he's asking you to do? Stop underselling yourself, undervaluing what you have on who you are. Give it to God and see what he will do through you. I want you to leave this room knowing that you are enough. You have what it takes to fulfill your purpose on this earth. Some of us will study until we get these diplomas, these degrees, some of us will. Some of us will go and do some labor, some trade training. Some of us will do. None of those things is bigger or small. We are wired differently. We bring that to God so he can use us for who we are. What do we have? It's not about the size of what you have, but the size of your God. Stop undervaluing what you have. Defeating the deficit mentality is valuing the little you have and trusting God's grace for what you don't have.